Hello everyone. So today we will be discussing about classification of soil according to Indian Standard Soil Classification System ISCS, Indian Standard Soil Classification System, and they have taken most of the inspiration from Unified Soil Classification System. That means Indian Standard Soil Classification System is inspired from Unified Soil Classification System. So I'll write down the full form so that you remember it. Indian Standard Soil Classification System, and it is mostly inspired from Unified Soil Classification System. Classification System. So that is the thing you need to know. Now, in Indian Standard Soil Classification System, that is what we are going to discuss. The soil is generally considered in three parts. It's divided into three parts. One is coarse-grained. Number two is fine-grained. And number three is organic. Organic or peat. So what is called as coarse grain? Okay, what is the meaning of coarse grain? So when you take a soil sample, okay, suppose you are taking 1 kilo of a soil sample, 1 kilo of a soil sample, and you are taking a 75 micron sieve and you are pouring it here, and more than if less than 50% passes through it, that means suppose 40% is passing, 40% is passing, or 45% is passing, or 30% is passing, that means the passing should be less than 50%. That means what? More than 50% will be retained in the sieve. That means more than 50% will not pass through the 75 micron sieve. So that means what? More than 50% is greater than what? 75 micron. Okay, 50% or more of that sample is greater than 75 micron. That's why 50% or more of the sample will get retained in the 75 micron sieve, and then it is called as coarse grain. So I just repeat, if 50% or more is greater than 75 micron, that means 55% or more will retain in the 75 micron sieve. 50% or more is retained in the 75 micron sieve. That means less than 50% will pass through the 75 micron sieve. That means it can be 40%, 45%, 30%. That means less than 50% passes through the 75 micron sieve. Okay, then it is a coarse grained soil. Okay, now that is the general concept. Okay, and 50% for coarse grain, 50% or more is greater than 75 micron. Okay, now uh, if we look into the sieve of 4.75 micron, okay, if we look into the sieve of 4.75, sorry, not micron, 4.75 millimeter, okay, and we pass the sample through it, okay, we pass the sample through the 4.75 millimeter sieve, then if we see that the percentage retained in that sieve is greater than 50%, then it is called as a coarse grained gravel. Okay, and if we see that when we are passing the sample through the 4.75 mm sieve and the percentage retained, that means not passing through the 4.75 mm sieve, is less than 50%, then it is a coarse grain sand. Okay, so in coarse grain there are like two subdivisions. Okay, this is number one and this is number two. Okay, so that you need to understand. Then if we look into the CUCC fellows, we have already discussed this before also. If it is a well graded gravel, then Cu greater than 4, then 1 less than equal to Cc, and for well graded sand, Cu greater than 6, 1 less than equal to Cc less than equal to sand. Okay, and this is generally checked. This is generally checked if the percentage of fines is less than 5%. That means you check for these and these in the sample only when this percentage of fines is less than 5%. What is called as fines? Fines means silt and clay. Silt, clay, they are called as fines. If the silt and clay percentage is less than 5%, then only we go for this type of checking, well graded sand and all those things. Okay, so this please try to remember these points. Now if the silt and clay in the soil is between 5 and 12%, so I'll take a new screen and example and give you the explanation. If the fines, okay, fines percentage is like between 5% to 12%, okay, then uh, we do some more classification. Okay, so if it is a gravel, okay, if it is a gravel, then if it is having fines 5% to 12%, okay, if we are considering a gravel, when will it be a gravel? When more than 50% of the sample is more than 4.75 mm. That means when more than 50% of the sample is retained on 4.75 mm sieve, then it is called as a gravel. So in that gravel, okay, if the fines are between 5 to 12%, and we see that the like the fines are mostly clay. Okay, these fines, I have told you that the fines are generally silt and clay. Now if you see that in this case the fines are mostly clay, okay, and you also see that the gravel is well graded. Okay, well graded means Cu greater than 4, 1 less than equal to Cc less than equal to 3. So you are getting that the gravel is well graded, and the fines which is between 5 to 12%, it is clay. Then the nomenclature becomes Zw, Zc. So Z is for gravel, W is for well graded, and C is for clay. So I have already told you before here that we give the nomenclature of well graded gravel or well graded sand when the percentage of fines is less than 5%. So we just can write ZW, well graded, or well graded sand. Sand will go later, but the thing is that we don't use this clay, we don't use this thing, let's say this thing ZC in the earlier case where the fines were less than 5%. Okay, when the fines, we just mentioned that it is well graded gravel. Okay, if we get this condition, if we get this condition, suppose we are getting this condition, okay, this condition, we just mention it as well graded gravel. We don't mention the fines. But if the fines are 5 to 12%, then we have to mention the fines also. And the fines, if they are between 5 to 12%, and we see that the fines are mostly clay, then we have to mention this C here. Okay, so ultimately it becomes well graded gravel having clay fines. Okay, now if the gravel is poorly graded, okay, if the we are taking the same condition, 5% to 12% fines. Okay, and if the gravel, once again I am repeating, gravel means a sample where 50% or more of that sample is greater than 4.75 mm. Okay, so that gravel, if it is a poorly graded gravel, and we see that the fines are mainly clay, then we write it as G P G C. So this G means gravel, P means poorly graded, C means clay. Okay, then if we go to this part, and if we see that instead of clay, if the gravel is well graded, and instead of clay we see that the fines are mostly silty, then we write it GM, and M is for silt, GWGM. If it is a well-graded gravel having fines between 5 to 12%, and we see that the fines are mainly silty, then we write it as GWGM. M is mainly used for denoting silt, as like C is used for denoting clay, M is used for denoting silt. Then similarly, if we say that here the gravel is poorly graded and the fines are mainly silt, then we write it as GPGM. Okay, so just you have to just we can say change the C to M if the fines are silty in place of clay. Okay, now same way we can write it for sands. Okay, if we write it for sands, how will it look like? Sand means what? Sand means if 50% of the sample is, or more of the sample is less than 4.75 mm, then it is a sand. Okay, 50% or more of the sample is less than 4.75 mm, then it is a sand. That means if you take a sieve of 4.75 mm, then you place that sample of sand, then 50% or more of it will pass through the 4.75 mm, because 50% or more is what? Smaller than 4.75 mm. Okay, 50% or more is smaller than 4.75 mm. Now, I'll just write that statement. Okay, so 50% or more is, okay. And for gravel, what was that? This is just a revision. Revision is very important. Okay, 50% or more is 50% or more is greater than 4.75 mm. So now we know that sand is well graded. Okay, if the sand is well graded, and if the sand is well graded, that means Cu is greater than 6 and 1 less than equal to C less than equal to 3, and we see that the fines are between 5% to 12%, and the fines are mainly clay, then we write SW SC. So S means sand, W means well graded, C means clay. Okay, if the sand is well graded and the fines are between 5% to 12% and the fines are silt, then we write SW SM. Okay, well graded sand and silty fines. And similarly, if the sand is poorly graded, so what, and the fines are clay, so sand is poorly graded SP and fines are clay, then it is SC. Okay, sand, poorly graded sand, then clay. And if the sand is poorly graded and the fines are silty, so sand, poorly graded and silty. So I hope you have understood this nomenclature. So this is sometimes it can confuse you. So I advise you to write it down 2 or 3 times. Now, if the fines are more than 12%, okay, so we have discussed it for fines less than 5%, then fines between 5% to 12%, then if the fines are greater than 12%, if fines are greater than 12%, that means what, there are considerable amount of clay and silt in the soil because there is more than 12% of clay and silt. So there will be effect of this fines, there will be effect of this clay and silt on the sample. Okay, because more than 12% in that sample is clay or silt, so they will give some plasticity characteristics. Plasticity characteristics because clay and silt are more than 12%, so they are like in a considerable amount, so they will give some plasticity characteristics. And then the plasticity characteristics are generally related with plasticity index, so we have to check the plasticity index. We have to check plasticity index. Now, if we check the plasticity index and we see that the plasticity index is less than 4%, then it is concluded that the fines are silty. The fines are silty. Alright. Then, if the plasticity index is between 4 to 7%, that means it has both silty and clayey particles. And if plasticity index is greater than 7%, then we can say that the fines are clayey nature. The fines are of clay nature. So in this case, suppose, let me make some space and then I will explain. So in this case, for plasticity index less than 4%, if it is gravel, then we can write what? Silty gravel, isn't it? And if the sample is sand, then I have to write silty sand. Okay, then if it is greater than 7%, we can write clay gravel, or if it is sand, then because you see only 12% is you can say fines, isn't it? Remaining 88% will determine whether remaining 88% will determine whether it is gravel or whether it is sand or something like that. So in that 88%, if we see that it is gravel, okay, like by checking the by doing the sieve analysis by passing them through 4.75 mm sieve by 75 micron sieve, we have to find out whether it is falling in gravel category or sandy category. So we have to determine it. Then if you see that the soil is gravel, and during this and regarding this 12%, regarding this 12%, in this we see that the plasticity index is less than 4%, okay, due to the effect of the fines of 12%, okay. If the like 12% or more, actually 12% or more, due to the effect of this, we have to we realize that it has given some plasticity. We have to check the plasticity index, okay. So then we will get this results. So if it is less than 4%, it is silty, so the soil is gravel, and we get this result. We say that it is silty gravel. If it is sand, from 88%, if we see that it is sand, and from here and here, if we see that it is less than 4%, we say that it is silty sand. Okay, similarly, we have to do the nomenclature. So in this case, it will be, if it is gravel, clayey gravel, sand, clayey sand. Okay, and here in this part, okay, if we find out from here that it is sand, okay, from 88%, we do the analysis, sieve analysis, and we see that it is sand, and we get the IP between 4 to 7%. That means it has both silt and clay. So we have to write SM SC because both is there. Now, if we again find that the soil is gravel from this 88%, and then we see that the IP is between 4% to 7%. Okay, so you have to write GM and GC. Okay, so this is how you do the nomenclature. Okay, so first you have to check the gravel or sand, wherever it is falling. You take your sample. Okay, so I am just repeating it once. You take the sample. Okay, you take the sample first, determine whether it is falling in coarse grain or fine grain or whatever. Okay, then you see, you pass it through 75 micron sieve. Okay, and if 50% or more is found to be greater than 75 micron sieve, then it is coarse. Okay, fine, it is coarse. Then again you pass it through 4.75 mm sieve, and you see that 50% or more is greater than 4.75 mm sieve, it is gravel, and 50% or more is less than 4.75 mm sieve, it is sand. Okay, gravel, sand, like that you determine. Okay, from 4.75 mm sieve. Then you go into the fines, that means 5% fines, then 5 to 12% fines, then greater than 12% fines. Okay, so you will get to know it from sieve analysis itself, how much fines are there. Okay, how much fines are there, you will get to know from the sieve analysis directly. Okay, because you know the dimension of the fines, isn't it? So from there only you will be able to know. Okay, so that is the thing. So you can refer your books, you can see the same notes are there in your books. Okay, so you please go through it. Okay, and tomorrow I will take a like interaction session. Okay, 9:15 a.m. or 9:30. I will take an interaction session, and then you raise your doubts to me. Thank you.